Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head. I'm Carrie Oderman with UATV. By December 8th, just a day before the Normandy Summit in Paris, Belarus's President Aleksandr Lukashenko and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin are expected to sign a new agreement on a deepening integration. They already agreed on the creation of a joint parliament and government. How far will this integration go and what can it lead to? To talk more about this, we welcome to our studio today Valeriy Kravchenko, Senior Research Fellow at the National Institute for Strategic Studies. Hello, and thank you for joining us.
Good afternoon.
I hope you can explain this to us. It's not every day that a sovereign nation hands over its sovereignty on a silver platter to another nation. What's going on?
Yep. First of all, let's understand that it was an informational attack from Russia towards Ukrainian, Belarusian, and all post-Soviet and even worldwide media resources with such message that we will have an annexation just tomorrow. And all this integration maps which I agreed, and all what we needed just to sign it by Putin and by Lukashenko. So it was an informational attack. It was a direct example how this post-truth could be used and how facts could be used for one part to engage and to influence on another part. So Belarus was attacked in informational sphere, of course.
So we're using the word annexation, and that's a strong word. Are we going to wake up tomorrow and are the maps going to be erased? A line of demarcation between Belarus and Russia? What's going to happen?
The most dangerous in this game that it was started by the ambassador of Belarus in Russia, and a few hours after this was interpreted about the joint government and joint parliament, his words were cancelled by the embassy of Belarus, so that it was interpreted as it was necessary to Russian mass media to make this provocation. But in fact, what we have to understand is that such game about the annexation, about the joint state, about the union state, so-called, we are talking about this topic probably the third year in a row. And each year it's coming closer and closer because Russia starting more aggressive propaganda with this topic and more aggressive behavior, blackmailing, as it is for Ukraine in conditions of the Normandy format meeting in Paris, for example. But as we are talking about the Belarus, it's about the energy and about the gas, oil suppliers, and how to use the Belarus and its territory in favor of plans of Russia in the future. And of course, it's more easily to do having such population, let's say pro-Russian. We have plenty of surveys in Belarus, and we could see that Lukashenko is not the first, hasn't first position on the surveys as the most popular politician. The most popular politician in Belarus is Vladimir Putin. So obviously they have a ground, and they need actually this country, Belarus, as a springboard, as a place of arms in the future aggression, in the future war in Europe.
Let me get this straight. Lukashenko, who's been in charge of Belarus and the only leader of Belarus since it broke away when the Soviet Union disintegrated in the early 90s, he really probably had nothing to do with this, and this was all knitted together in Moscow. So the resources that Moscow wants from Belarus, I'm curious what you think is going to happen to Lukashenko, and the public is going to go along with it because they love Vladimir Putin?
It doesn't matter, actually, for Putin and for his efforts about the Belarus, because Lukashenko, you're right, he is a last probably dictator. It names like a last dictator of Europe. Of course, Putin is the last, but Lukashenko was named as such dictator. But yes, it's authoritarian, and we had an elections in November. In Belarus, it's parliamentary elections, so-called elections, because it has the majoritarian system, and all candidates from the opposition were banned from participating in these elections, and all candidates are pro-Lukashenko, pro-power, but it's For Lukashenko, it's a kind of last game he's playing, because he had an age. We have to understand that he is not a young man. Yeah, and he had some, as we understood, some of course from Russian media, some problems and some illnesses, and it was disseminated the information that he went to Arabic Emirates for treatment. So it's also one of the points of such propaganda, of such informational attack to Belarus. And to Lukashenko, of course. And next year we will have an elections, and presidential elections. And after the presidential elections in August, we will see. Will it be comfortable to Russia to use Lukashenko as it was before, previously, or they have to change the candidate or with intensification of all these annexation processes. Now it's concerning about the customs, about the civil law, about the tax law, for example. But tomorrow, let's see. It will be about the security, and what is Lukashenko saying, that the only two topics prohibited and banned for this integration negotiations is sovereignty and independence. And if you're talking about the security, about the defense, and we understand the necessity of Belarusian territory to Russian plans, about the air forces need to deploy it in that territory to play the role on this western border of Russia and its sphere of influence, as it is for Poland, for example, a very crucial issue, and for Baltic states. And the other deployment also, let's see, that will be very big and full-scale trainings, military trainings, Запад 2021, the West 2021. And let's see what will be after this military trainings.
What has been the international reaction? Because this almost seems like Soviet Union 2.0. If Belarus is under the full control of Vladimir Putin in Moscow, are they still going to be sitting in the United Nations? And will there just be an extra vote for Moscow then?
You know, the world community and the world leaders, they are seeing on this situation from the position that Russia will be an actor which acts with a good behavior, with a good frames, as it was for the system exists before 2014, before the escalation in Donbass and before the annexation of Crimea. Now Russia trying to play such good game and to show that we are different. We are different from that position that it was in Ukraine, for example, in 2014. But let's see what and how Russia is using this local treaties, I mean sub-regional, regional, just for example, Azov Sea and the Treaty of Common Use of Azov Sea and Kerch Strait. What is common? It's not a common exactly, it's Russian. So if you are talking about the common state, about the union state between Belarus and Russia, there is no illusion about what will be the nature of the state. For start, it could be like in Crimea, with all freedoms and rights to people, even for Crimean Tatars, for Ukrainian population, as it was in Crimea. But just in 2 years and 3 years, it will be totally pro-Russian. And what we have now in Crimea, it's a ban of what you are talking about Ukraine. So if you could say about the Crimean Tatars, we have the problems with the freedom, with the rights and everything. So if you are talking about the Belarus, the situation is absolutely the same. The long-term aim of Russia is undermine identity and culture of its neighbors. And to provoke this situation where Russian culture and Russian language will be the only for use and to disseminate this policy
Okay, it sounds like Lukashenko might be out of a job, but Vladimir Putin might be creating a new job for himself. If this union is created, there'll be an extra governing body for the union, and he can't really be president of Russia anymore because he sat out his time. Is it possible that he's creating a new construct that he can be in charge of? What's the takeaway on that?
They are not afraid about the new job. If you are talking about that he will need to act and to make a few steps
Be legitimate.
To be legitimate, we have to understand that it will be steps. As I said, it will be only the illusion of that is common steps, and that will be a joint state of Belarus and Russia, but it will be on the paper, but in the reality it will be absolutely different. And they are not afraid to spend a little money for such integration, to receive this territory that they really need in military needs, as I said, as a springboard, as a preparation camp for something bigger, for revisionism, for revanche against the Western civilization, against the NATO, against the European Union. So it's only about the money, it's only about the cost. But if you're talking about the benefit, geopolitical benefit for Russia, as they see this benefit, it's much worse, and it's for Lukashenko in the long-term strategy. Lukashenko and Belarus and the national elites, as we are talking national elites, they have no chances against the oligarchic system which is governing by Putin.
Well, it sounds like Russia may be working on its global reputation, but in the neighborhood, it's not a very good neighbor.
Unfortunately.
That's all the time we have today. Thanks so much
Thank you
for joining us. That was Valeriy Kravchenko, Senior Research Fellow at the National Institute for Strategic Studies. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more with UATV.